What's up, everyone? Bob's Blu-rays here, and today I'm going to be doing a bit of an unusual video, something that I've never done before, so stay tuned and I'll get into it after this intro. Alrighty, so like I said, today's video is going to be a bit unusual and different from what I usually do on my channel, but I wanted to try something different. So today I'm going to talk about addiction, and I'm going to be pulling out 10 different movies. Now, these aren't in any particular order of my favorite to least favorite or anything like that, but today's date is the reason why I chose to do this. It's been something that I've wanted to do. I guess you could say out of fear of judgment, or just doing something different, and being super personal and vulnerable is not something that usually people would do on YouTube, right? I don't personally care about views. I'm not looking to become some big YouTuber. I put out videos that are personal to me, that matter to me. That's why I do it. So today's video is definitely personal. It's definitely going to be different. But I wanted to talk about addiction. I feel like it's something that doesn't get talked about enough. Sometimes it gets swept under the rug. Addiction films, addiction movies are my favorite genre. Number one favorite genre over horror movies, comedies, anything out there. This is my favorite genre. It hits extremely close to home. I'll talk a little bit about my story in some of these movies and what they mean to me. I could have done a more than movies for it, but I want to talk about more than 3 movies. I was hoping to get my dad on here to do this video with me, but I see my dad like once every couple months at this point, and it just didn't happen. Unfortunately, I would have loved to have him on here, but I'll definitely share some stories and talk about kind of addiction and how it ran in our family, at least through my dad and I. So I'm going to go ahead and dive into it. I'm going to talk, like I said, about 10 different movies. Some of them mean a little bit more to me than the others. Some of them might not have any kind of impact on me necessarily. And some of them are super relatable. But we'll talk about the very first one, which is going to be Ben is Back. I'm a huge fan of Ben is Back. I think it's an excellent movie. I love Julia Roberts in this movie. Lucas Hedges is excellent as well. I can't necessarily really relate to him in this movie. I never had this relationship with my mom at all. It's a very powerful movie, though. It is extremely emotional, and it's quite stressful, especially like the last 45 minutes to an hour of this movie. And it's got a really impactful ending. I would recommend checking out Ben is Back if you haven't seen this movie and you're up for an emotional kind of roller coaster about family, especially mother and son. This is your movie to see. I would definitely recommend that one. So that's the first one. This next one is one of my very favorite movies, probably top 100 of all time for me. A friend of mine had recommended it to me. I'd never even heard of the movie. It has got some great performances, and it's a very powerful movie. And I recommended it to a couple people already, but we have got smashed right here. I love this movie. You got Octavia Spencer in this. Mary Elizabeth Winstead was robbed of an Oscar nomination for this, for her role in particular in this movie. She's incredible. She gets caught up in a lot of different drugs, alcohol as well, and it just kind of spirals. But you know, he goes through rehab and things like that in this movie. And I don't want to give away a whole lot. She's married to Aaron Paul in this movie, who I also am a big fan of. But this is a powerful movie. Another powerful movie. I'm more into the very serious addiction roles, because I don't, I guess that's definitely one I would recommend. But I take addiction very seriously. I can't stand it when a movie downplays it or makes it look like a cookie cutter or very simple or easy, because it's not. Addiction is anything but easy. It's very ugly. It's a disease. It's very real, and it could take control of people's lives, and even, you know, worse. So I absolutely love Smash. I think it's an incredible movie. Very under the radar. I would recommend checking out Smashed as well if you haven't. Next one I'm going to talk about is going to be a movie called Home Run. Now, I'm missing the slipcover for this, of course. But I have only seen this a couple times, maybe twice. I actually saw this while I was in recovery at a group called Celebrate Recovery, if anyone has heard of it. And I think they played this one night. And that was the first time I saw this movie. And it's a bit relatable for me. It's absolutely supposed to be like in particular for Celebrate Recovery, I believe. I believe that's why they made this movie, or Celebrate Recovery sponsored it, something like that. But I've been through that. And it's a good movie. I like this one. I'm sure most people wouldn't. I think it's pretty faith-based, if I remember correctly. Once again, I like it. He's a baseball player who struggles with alcoholism. And there's some powerful scenes in this one as well. But he has to become he's a really good baseball player, professional baseball player, and then he's got to go through recovery and kind of gets demoted and things like that, and then has to, I think, manage Little League Baseball. And so I like this one. I thought it was good. There's a couple, like I said, powerful scenes in this one. I don't know if a lot of you watching this would necessarily like this one, but I just wanted to talk about Home Run briefly there for a second. Uncut Gems. So this actually might be one of the most relatable for me. I struggled with gambling probably my whole life. Sports gambling in particular. I never got caught up in cards, never got caught up in poker, anything like that. But sports gambling for sure. And I had some issues with bookies in the past. And I could go into even greater detail, but I don't think I'll get that personal. But I got into some trouble with sports gambling. And if you've seen this movie, you know how it ends. But it definitely, the stress of it and the highs that he has and the lows that he has. I've been there. I've felt it. Anybody who's gambled on sports, and once again, any kind of something that you struggle with as far as addiction goes, it doesn't have to be a problem. There's plenty of people that gamble on sports for fun, and if you can do that, that's okay. When I was younger, I didn't know how to do that. I lost a lot of money, made a lot of mistakes, got caught up with bookies when I was younger before it was legal, and yeah, I got into some trouble with that when I was a lot younger. And once again, this is going to be a different video. I'm going to talk a lot about some issues that I've had in the past, but gambling was one of them. That was something I struggled with for sure. Never really talk about that too much. And it sucks because I love watching sports, and it's a lot of fun. And gambling can be fun. I'm sure a lot of you out there would agree. But if you got a problem like he had, it could be dangerous. So yeah, Uncut Gems. Great movie. Excellent movie. Very stressful. Very high octane, if you want to call it that. And just a very stressful movie. All right, next one I'm going to talk about is something I've never struggled with, thank God. But I love this movie. I don't think anyone recommended it, but it's a Kino Lorber title, and I had to buy it. You got Rush. It has Jason Patric in it, who I'm a big fan of, and Jennifer Jason Leigh, and she's always great in anything she does. This is from 1991, and Kino Lorber still in stock. You can probably grab it next sale or whatever. I recommend this one. It is very in your face, I would say. It's about heroin. I think he goes undercover and then hires her, or she becomes his partner. They're partners, but they're undercover for heroin addiction, trying to, do a drug raid, whatever it is. And they get caught up in it. And I think it was my dad who recommended this one to me, actually. But I loved this movie. I was a huge fan of Rush. I think it ends perfectly. I just really enjoy this movie. Very, like I said, in your face. It is blunt. It does not hold back. There are some extreme close-up shots of needles, if that's not your thing. And I thought Rush was a really powerful movie as well. Next one I'm going to talk about is probably one of the ones I've most recently watched for the first time, and I thought it was well made. I don't think enough people talk about it. Vertical Entertainment put it out. You guys know I'm a fan of Vertical titles. A lot of them. Some of them are terrible. But we have got I think, one of the best actresses of any generation. We've got Glenn Close, and also Mila Kunis is in this. But you've got 4 Good Days. I saw this on Hulu so many times, and I never got around to watching it. I kept seeing it, and I finally blind bought it, and I watched it, and I was glued to the TV. I don't think I checked my phone one single time, and I was in tears, I think, a few times watching this one. But another one, heroin addiction. I think it's just so well made. They make her teeth look just awful in this movie. But the stealing from her mom, like, I don't want to spoil too much of it, but yeah, she's got to live with her mom for 4 days, stay clean, and it is just so difficult for her to do. But the way she treated her mom, like some of the stories, watching this movie, some of the scenes between her and her mother. Now, once again, I'm big into father-son movies. This is more of a mother-daughter movie. And I think it still hit close to home for me, honestly. You know, some of the scenes with the mother and some of the things, and just, I could even relate to some aspects of the movie, quite a few aspects of the movie. Some I couldn't. But I try to put myself, oh my goodness, it's an emotional ride with the mother, and you feel for Glenn Close's character so much in the movie. And, man, this movie wrecked me. I'm not gonna lie. It's a true story, and I get emotional talking about this one because this was a tough watch, and powerful, stressful, excellent, well made. It flies under the radar. I don't think enough people talk about 4 Good Days, but I would recommend checking this one out. Once again, if you're a fan of any kind of addiction movies, 4 Good Days. The mother-daughter relationship in particular, if that is something for you, you have to check that movie out. All right, next one I'll talk about is going to be Thanks for Sharing. This is not, I always thought it was A24, but it's not A24, it's Lionsgate, put it out. But you got Gwyneth Paltrow in this, Tim Robbins, Mark Ruffalo, Josh Gad. I like Josh Gad. And then Pink is also in this movie. It is about a guy struggling with sex addiction. All 3 of them, actually. Mark Ruffalo, Tim Robbins, and Josh Gad. And then Pink comes into the group as well. But it is romantic. It's funny at times. I enjoy this movie. I just literally rewatched it. Rewatched it. But I like it. It's a different, as far as like addiction goes, it's not your, it's not heroin, it's not drugs, anything like that. But I like all sorts of movies about addiction. I like watching different things like that. So yeah, I like this one a lot. Gwyneth Paltrow, she's great in it. Everybody gives a good performance. If you haven't seen Thanks for Sharing, I would check out Thanks for Sharing. I don't know if it's your cup of tea or if it's your thing, but I thought it was a good movie. I honestly thought there were powerful elements in this movie, and I think there's relatable aspects in this movie for everyone. Even if you don't even if this isn't your thing, right? There's aspects in it where you'd be like, yeah, you could do that with the gambling or anything, just the addiction element to this movie. So I would check out Thanks for Sharing. All right, next one up, one of my favorites of probably in this genre in particular. This one hit close to home for me. I got teared up quite a few times. Remember seeing this in theaters, and then COVID hit. I remember my dad talking to me about this one, and we had some conversations about this movie. But we've got The Way Back. The Way Back. Yeah, this is a heavy movie. From beers in the shower to the scene when he just keeps pulling out a beer, puts one in the freezer, pulls out another one, puts another one in the freezer, pulls out another one all night long, just keeps drinking. It's a very heavy movie, very good movie. Gavin O'Connor directed it. He's an incredible director. But there are I talked with my dad about this movie, and he'd be okay with me sharing this story, but he talked about the one scene in particular in this movie, and this is like a minor spoiler alert, but he kind of accidentally, I think, walks into the wrong house. And I think my dad shared a story about when he drank, he did something similar to that, or that exact thing, in his early 20s. So my dad is 40 years sober now. He hasn't had a drink in 40 years. He's probably like 24, 25, I believe he was. 24, 25 years old when he quit. Today, November 1st, actually marks 10 years since I've had a drink. And for me, I knew I had a problem because I have an addictive personality, right? Look at the movies behind me, right? But I think certain things, anything can be an addiction, but certain things can be like healthier, I guess. And you got to learn moderation. And even collecting movies can be dangerous or out of control. So you got to be careful. You got to make sure you budget, know what you're spending, because you can easily get out of control, even with movies. And like anything, right? You could lose your family because you start buying movies with the money you don't have, can't afford a mortgage, rent, whatever it is. You got to be careful. So be smart. But alcohol for me, I didn't really like drinking. I didn't start drinking until I was like 20, 21. And my problem was I didn't know how to put the drink down. I didn't know how to put the bottle down. And I like shots. I got caught up with Patron a lot. Shots of Patron, a lot of money spent. I was mixing different shots all night. But I was like an angry drunk, I guess. I was fine until I had too many. And then I got aggressive and angry and belligerent. And I got into a lot of fights. And I got into a lot of trouble. And it didn't take me long to realize I had a problem when you have to keep texting your friends the next morning and apologizing. But did a lot of stupid things, made a lot of mistakes, and I knew my dad was an alcoholic, and I knew my dad was an angry drunk, and I knew some of the mistakes he made. And at that age, at 21, I could start to see I was going to become exactly what my dad was, if not worse. And so when I was younger, 10 years ago today, I realized, okay, I can't keep drinking. And there were times I would come home to a bottle and looking for answers. You struggle with depression, looking for answers at the bottom of a bottle. And that was me. One time I thought about, it's in a very dark place, dark thoughts, came home, chugged a bottle of UV Blue. I was probably like 20, 21. Yeah, 21. I was in a rough place. And, young, you're young, you make mistakes. But I had to realize if I didn't quit, I was going to end up like my dad, but worse. And I recently had this conversation with my dad not too long ago, and it kind of hit me. He was talking to me about it, drinking. We were sharing some stories and stuff like that. And he was like, if you didn't quit drinking, you wouldn't have seen 25 years old. And he's right. It didn't really dawn on me until he said that. But if I didn't quit, I was headed down that path. I wouldn't have lived to see 25. I was going to do something. I would have ended up dead. But yeah, that's why I like these movies, because they are relatable in some aspect, maybe not all. But yeah, it's something I don't talk about a whole lot. I can still go to a bar. I actually do. My dad and I will go to a bar and we'll shoot pool. Now, I'm not sitting here saying that people who struggled with addiction should go sit at a bar, right? That's not what I'm saying at all. But my dad and I, it's okay for us to sit at a bar. Like, I'm not somebody who can't be around alcohol. You know what I mean? I was around that this weekend. And some people, very respectful, and I appreciate it. People will be like, you don't mind if I drink, do you? Absolutely not. I don't mind, and I don't mind being around alcohol. For me, I had to quit. And I just ask, like, when I'm with friends, I've had people try to be like, oh, you could have a drink. You could have a drink. Come on. It's not a big deal. And it's like, if I tell people my story, I would think they wouldn't want me to drink, you know? And I just ask that people respect that, you know what I mean? Not try to force that upon you. I've had people do that. So yeah, sometimes being around certain people just tried to force the issue. They wanted to see you drink, you know what I mean? They thought it'd be fun, and it's like, no. I just ask that people respect that, you know what I mean? I would never ask somebody I know struggling with any kind of addiction to do it, you know? But some people are like that. But yeah, my dad and I, we could go to a bar. Doesn't bother us. We could be around that. You just got to know yourself. It wasn't always like that, not right away. But I knew I had an issue, and I knew I had to quit. Yeah, so that's pretty much that story as far as alcoholism goes. I didn't drink long. And what I mean, I talked about it in the beginning of this video, being judged. So I've been on dates probably when I was years ago, right? And I would talk about not drinking because I want people to know, hey, especially you go out to dinner with somebody, you know what I mean? They want to have a drink. I don't drink. Now, I don't mind if somebody drinks, but I tell people that, and I'm telling you, it changed the way the date went. It changed their thoughts. I felt like it was very tough dating in your late 20s, mid 20s, even in the 30s, and you don't drink. Because I feel like a lot of people, they look at somebody who doesn't drink and they either think two things, right? He is an alcoholic who's in recovery, who can't be around alcohol, right? Who can't drink or anything like that. That's not me. Or they think he's not fun, right? He doesn't drink, he doesn't know how to have a good time, he's probably a square, whatever. And it's like, if anybody knows me by now, knows that I like to say I could be the life of a party without having a drink, right? I had to realize, and I realized at a young age, I didn't need to have a drink in my hand to have a good time. When I was younger, I thought that. And just trying to figure out who you were. But it's funny because my dad and I will be at a wedding. I remember there was this story that we were at a wedding and somebody came up to, I think it was my dad's wife at the time, and she said, she was telling us the story. She came up to her and she was like, those two guys are loaded. And my dad and I were on the dance floor, right? And I guess she told the lady, she's like, funny story, those two guys haven't had a single drink. And that's my dad and I. First one's on the dance floor, last one's off the dance floor. We don't care. My dad's a way better dancer than I am. He's actually a good dancer. I can't dance for crap, but I like to. I like to have a good time. And yeah, I like to be an open book. I don't like to hold back. This is definitely a different video. It's longer too, but I want to be personal. I like to be upfront. I like to do different things on my channel. I like to do different videos. And yeah, I just like to be who I am, I guess. I'm not afraid to talk about certain things. I'm not afraid to talk about tough topics. And I'm not afraid to talk about all the mistakes I've made. And I have made a crap ton of them, from one addiction to the other. And it took a while to forgive myself and make amends with people. And yeah, just ask for forgiveness, things like that. I've been there. And that's why some of these movies are so relatable. They hit so hard. Some of them hit really close to home. And it's nice because I could talk to my dad about these movies and have these conversations, and a lot of them hit close to home for him as well. But I've got two more, so let's go ahead and dive into them. We've got Less Than Zero, which is a movie from the 80s. You've got Robert Downey Jr. in this, who I believe was struggling with like drug addiction at the time of this movie. But this is a tough, like, I don't want to say it's a tough watch. All these movies can be a tough watch, right? But this is a very powerful movie. And it's emotional. It's heartbreaking. And I'm a huge fan of Andrew McCarthy, especially in the 80s. I love Andrew McCarthy. And he got Jamie Gertz in this. And I absolutely loved Jamie Gertz in the 80s and 90s as well. This is one of my favorite movies about addiction. I probably watched this at way too young of an age. My dad introduced me to this movie probably when I was an early teenager, maybe even younger. And some of the things in this movie I did not understand, but when I rewatched it, I understood it. And this movie is powerful. It is heartbreaking, and it's just such a good watch. It's not an easy one. It's not an easy watch, especially if you know Robert Downey Jr. was going through some of these struggles in this movie. But you know, some of the things you do for drugs, like he does in that movie, alcohol, things like that. You see it in these movies. Thank you. I never got caught up in some of the things in these movies that I watch and stuff like that, or did some of the things that some of these people did, characters did, but still hits home in a lot of ways and a lot of different aspects. All right, the last one I'm going to talk about right here is going to be another DVD, because it's only on DVD only. We have got A Million Little Pieces. Now, Aaron Taylor Johnson's in this one, and also Billy Bob Thornton. This was directed by Aaron Taylor Johnson's wife, which is Sam Taylor Johnson is her name. And I absolutely love this movie. I think it is incredibly powerful. Now, there is a book on this movie, and it's based on a real person. Now, I believe the book, and I don't know because I never read the book, okay? But I believe he fabricated the story. The guy who wrote the book, it's about him, and I believe he fabricated some of the stories in the book. I don't believe it's all real. I don't believe he went through all the things that he says he went through, right? I'm not talking about the book. I'm talking about the movie. This movie, to me, was excellent the way it was directed. Another under-the-radar movie, but Aaron Taylor Johnson is super underrated as an actor. You gotta love Billy Bob Thornton. And I love this one. He goes through some really difficult stuff in this movie. There's, you know, the teeth, and there's some things in this movie that make you question it, make you realize, relatable, different things like that. There's some heartbreaking moments in this movie, and there's a lot of relatable moments in this movie as well. And he struggles with quite a few different addictions. But I love this movie. I was a huge fan of it. I really want to rewatch it. I think I'm going to rewatch it again very soon. And yeah, and there's other movies out there as well. So many different movies I could talk about, but I think one day I'll do a More Than Movies on addiction, and maybe I'll talk about the ones I didn't talk about today in different detail. There's a couple. Yeah, there's some really good ones. I can't believe I didn't pull one of them. It's literally right behind me. But yeah, these movies, they most of them hit close to home in some way, shape, or form. My relationship with my mom was usually pretty good. Had some rocky moments, right? When I was younger, and I couldn't afford to pay my bookies, I had to borrow money from my mom, right? When I was younger. So I made a lot of mistakes, especially when I was 20, and I still, to this day, make mistakes. I do stupid things. I do things that I know I shouldn't be, right? But I'm trying. Quit drinking, all that stuff. And one thing that really helps for me is running and movies. There's like the two things in my life that are kind of constants, and I can't run right now because of an injury, and it makes it difficult. I miss it. It's something that kind of keeps me sane. And it's funny to say, like, running at times has saved my life, as corny as that might sound to some people, but it was just always there, you know. You live on your own, you're single, you just work, you come home. If you do a stream, you hang out with people, but when that stream ends, you shut the laptop and that's it. It's just you. And so you're alone, and you got movies, and that's what I do. Sleep, wake up, work all day, 12 to 16 hours a day. And I watch sports and movies. And so without running at the moment, it's something I miss. That drive, it keeps me grounded, keeps me going, and it just sets the tone for my day. And I'm hoping to get back to it soon. But so those are the two things that have kind of, instead of addiction, it was always running and movies. And these are the kinds of movies right here that really do it for me. But that's everything. Those are kind of some of the stories. Like I said, I felt like today was a good day. I've always wrestled with this for about a year now. I know there's some other people that have mentioned addiction, alcoholism, being sober, things like that. And then there's some people in the community, in our community, that just choose not to drink. For me, it was a choice because I knew I had a problem, and I knew as somebody with an addictive personality and somebody who ran in the family, genetics, my dad, I knew I had to quit. Otherwise, it was going to become something out of control like you would see in these movies. And so that's why I quit. And one piece of advice my dad gave me, not too long ago actually, he called me, and he'll make a joke sometimes about, like, when I was younger, he'd be like, you're going to lead me back to drinking, before I even knew what alcohol was. And I'll sometimes say that, like, I'll have those days where you just almost want to drink, and that's where I have a movie or running or something like that. And I don't want to. I never want to go back to that. And but I'll have those conversations with my dad, and he'll tell me, it was great advice he gave me. He said, no matter how long it's been, because he's got 40 plus years now, he'll say, no matter how long it's been since I've had a drink, every day it will always be there. You got to be careful. You got to just be mindful of that. Like, it's always there, especially a bad day, especially somebody like my dad. Probably wasn't as bad for me. My dad, it was worse. It was a couple of years. Me, it was less than that. And I think he got into a little bit more trouble than I did. But yeah, it's important to understand that addiction's always there. Like, your drug of choice, whatever it is, and most people have something. Some people don't struggle with addiction, but it's always there. You got to be mindful of it. You got to be careful, no matter how long you are sober, clean, whatever it is. Be mindful of that stuff. Like I said, I never went to rehab, inpatient, outpatient. My dad has. He's been there. I know other people who have. For me, I went through recovery a couple different times. And I've seen friends lose the battle. I've seen friends struggle and have sobriety and victory only to crash and burn hard. I've had friends reach out to me and ask for help. And recently, not too long ago, I had a friend reach out, caught up in coke, alcohol, all this stuff, asking for a place to crash. I got space. I live on my own. I talked to a couple people, and I did not allow her to stay with me, because it's one of those things, like, I don't know how I could help, right? Caught up in that stuff. I've been there with the alcohol. It's like bad situation for me. But it breaks my heart at times to know that I got friends out there struggling. I could probably help them at times, and I've walked away or whatever. I haven't helped as much as I guess I can, but I try to. I've led recovery groups in the past, and I just hope to make a difference someday in people's lives. It's one of those things, sometimes it's uncomfortable to talk about it unless you're around other people like that, but this was different video. It's over a half hour long. Probably won't do much editing, and we'll see. I don't know. It's one of those things that's something different. I don't know how I'll feel after I post the video. But yeah, I wanted to do something different, and it's definitely different, being vulnerable in aspects. And like I said, mistakes, they still happen to this day, but I just try and be there as much as I can for people to help them. So anyways, that's all. Appreciate you watching. If you watch this video, thank you. I know it's something different, especially watching me talk for 30 minutes about addiction. That's not necessarily something most people want to do. So if you stayed to the end, I really do appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks for always watching all my videos and supporting, dropping comments, things like that. It means a lot. It really does. It's the comments that mean something. Reading those keep a lot of people going, whether you realize it or not. Those comments, and then unfortunately the negative ones, people see that. Those hurt a lot of people, you know what I mean? And that's why you got to focus on the positive comments and just your relationships you make, the friends you have, all that stuff. Just keep going. It's important. And you don't know the difference you're making out there, whether it's something as simple as doing a movie review, a collection update or whatever. You might be helping somebody, you don't know. So with that being said, thanks for watching. Appreciate all of you, and have a great November. It's towards the end of the year. Have a great holidays and the rest of your year. Thank you very much.